Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to LifeMission Kids. Special shout out to all my friends at our Kansas City, Kansas campus. Hey, good to see you. So give me a virtual fist bump. Boom. Let's blow it up because here we go. Okay, so I have a question for you. How many of you know what your body temperature should be around? Around 98 some odd degrees, give or take a little bit. And how do you know what your temperature is? Well, when I was a kid, they had the I'm putting your lip in your way, and as you wait away, you pull it out, and it will tell you. And then as I got older, they got things that they put on your head, and then it would go to a certain spot, and it would be like, aha, you're having a fever, or you're not. And now they have those things like this. They have the things like this where you can just do like that, and it will tell you the temperature or something. Maybe you've seen it going around is that people go up and they'll go, and they'll be like, yep, and they'll check the temperature and they'll see that you're okay. The reason I'm bringing up temperature and talking about that is that I want to talk to you about a story in the Bible about three individuals who were in a situation where temperature really mattered. And who I'm talking about? I'm talking about three individuals: Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Yeah. All right, I'm going to be honest with you. I can't spell it, so here you go. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. By the way, do any of you know someone named Shadrach, Meshach, or Abednego? If you do, tell them I say hi. But here's the thing with these three guys, is that they were in a situation where they were dealing with temperatures, and I'm talking about hot temperatures. Now, do you know when it comes to temperatures that a lot of things will either be burnt up or melt at certain temperatures? And so I want to show you guys something that I did to kind of see how hot things get. Then as it's going, and I have the power to get it 2 times hotter, 3 times hotter, 4 times hotter, 6 times hotter, 7 times hotter. Now, as you can see from that video there, things were a little hot and really hot. You definitely wouldn't want to touch that, and you don't want to be playing with any fire matches or anything. And I had some buckets of water and things to keep things safe. But that really had me thinking, wow, can you imagine being around something that hot? Well, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were actually around something even hotter and hotter. What they were is, have you ever seen something like melted, or maybe a blacksmith? You know how blacksmith would put something in the hot fire there, the furnace, and then they would pound it, and it gets so hot, it's like red hot, and they pound it and they pound it. Well, this is a similar situation. And what I'm referring to is in the book of Daniel, Daniel chapter 3 talks about these three guys, and I want you to follow along with me. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were three guys that were brought to this place. And they did so well that they were in a position of authority. They were able to oversee some things. But the king didn't follow God. And the king ended up building an idol. But here's the thing, that idol, it was really tall. It was made out of gold. And they say that if you take like 5 camels and you stack them on top of each other, that's how tall it was. I mean, this thing would be huge. And so the king said, hey, whenever you hear this, you need to stop what you're doing and you need to worship that idol. So can you imagine just being around, just like, hey man, how you doing? Oh, cool, yeah, I'm doing that. We gotta worship that big idol thing. And that's what people had to do. But if they didn't, they were thrown in the fiery furnace. Now, they believe that this furnace was made to make bricks, where you're pounding stuff and you're doing stuff to make like metal tools and different things. So it wasn't like your fire pit that you have at home. Like, this was something that was really hot. And so everybody knew what it was. They were able to see it. They were able to smell the smoke. And if you went by it, you were able to feel it. So there was no question of what that was. And it was quite clear that if you don't stop when you hear the in worship, that's where you're going. Well, these three guys had a choice. And when that music played, they didn't stop and worship. And so they were brought to the king. And the king was like, hello? Did you not get, I sent out like a mass text, and like they put it up everywhere. They sent it to your mom's Facebook page, all over that. And they said that if you don't stop and worship when you hear this, then you're going in the fiery furnace. So I'm going to give you a second chance. Maybe you just, you didn't get the message or something. You're too busy playing your game, but I need you to do that. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had the chance to avoid being put in a furnace or any harm by just saying, oh, can you believe that? I can't believe we forgot that. Did you believe that? Did you believe that? So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had a chance right there to get out of any possible hurt, anything that would happen to them. But if you read in the Bible there in Daniel chapter 3, that it would say, no, king, we don't answer you on that. But here's something that I want you to also realize, is that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had faith, and they stuck to what they believed in. They stuck to what they believed in so much that they risked being thrown in a fiery furnace because they knew that it wasn't right to worship any other god. They knew it wasn't right to go before idols. But if you look further in chapter 3 and verse 18, how it says, hey, even if we are not saved physically from this, I ain't doing it. Can you imagine how brave you would have to be to stand up in front of the king, and you've seen the fire, you smelled the fire, you felt the fire, and know that that's where you're going, and you say, hey, I ain't worshiping that idol, and no, I understand we might get thrown in there, and yep, we know what happens when things get thrown in fire, but even so, we ain't doing it. Now, for me, I'm going to tell you right now, if I was put in that situation, that'd be tough. Do you think you can stand up to someone and say that when you know that that's the situation? I'm going to tell you right now, I can't do it. There's no way I can do it. I can't do it. But see, here's the difference, is that they weren't doing it on their own might. They weren't doing it on their own ability, for they knew the God that they served. They knew the God that they loved. And so what happened? The king threw him in the fire. And a matter of fact, he was so mad he got the fire even more and more so hot that the people that were throwing him in, the flames got them. But as the king, probably from a safe distance, stood back and was like, okay, they didn't listen to me. They're gone. Wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hey, did we put 3 people or 4 people in there? We put 3 people in there. And so what does it say as you read on? Is that there were 4 people in there. That it looked like the Son of God. For God was with them in that fiery time. So the king said, hey, and I'm sure he didn't like touch it, but he was like, hey guys, do you mind coming out of there? So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego all came out. Now, were their clothes burnt? Were their clothes messed up? Not a mark. Did they smell like it? Have you ever got too close to the campfire or the grill, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, it smells like barbecue, or smells like campfire. And that's what you smell like? For their clothes weren't burned up. They didn't even smell like it. Not a hair on their head was burnt. And they were safe in the fire. Now, do you know why they were safe through the fire? Oh, I know. It's because they knew what to do. And if you position yourself just right, and the flames will go right past you, like, and you move real slow. And there's this special thing, and they had this thing that they threw on them, and it kept them safe. No. Just like our verse that we're learning this month, our God is able to do immeasurably more than all we can ask or imagine. Do you know why they were saved from the fire? Do you know why nothing happened to them, why they didn't even smell like it? It was because they put their faith and their trust in God. And like I said earlier, that takes a lot of courage to do. And I know that I would be afraid, and that's why we have to realize that we can't do it ourselves. Just like we've talked about before, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. Now, I think these three guys trusted in the Lord with all their heart. They didn't lean on their own understanding, because my understanding would be, I'm getting as far away from that because that hurts. Has any of you ever touched the stove? Don't do it, but if you have, did it hurt? You can't see it, but on my hand right here, there was a fire and there was this rod in there, and I was probably like in second grade, first grade, and I said, oh, I'm gonna get the rod out of the fire. And I reached my hand in there and I grabbed it and I pulled it out, and I was like, oh. Then about a second later, why? Because it burnt my hand. And you know what? I've also learned now not to stick my hand in the fire and grab some metal thing that's been sitting in there for a while. So my own understanding tells me to get away from fire, to get away from the heat. But they didn't do that. They stood up for what they believed in. They had their trust in God, and they knew that, you know what? God, you got us. Whether we physically aren't able to survive the fire, but we survive the fire and we're with you. See, a trusting God is trusting God and not seeing or knowing what's going to happen. You know, we had another verse that said, now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about the things we do not see. When we have our faith and our trust and our hope in God, that's what really matters. That's what can keep us safe in time of trouble. When we have our faith and trust and hope in God, that is where we can lean on him. That is where we can know, you know what? I don't know what's going to happen, but I know that you could do so much more than I could ever ask or imagine. So Lord, I ask you for courage. I ask you for help. I ask you to direct me in my steps and ways. We can learn a lot from Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And I encourage you to please put on a different look. Put on a different look on how you look at things. And sometimes we might hear things over and over again, but we can always learn something from it. So let's learn something from Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Let's learn how we can stand firm even when we see and hear things around us. Let us learn that we could still be respectful and stand on what we've been told and what we know. And also, we can make sure that we stand firm and that God receives the glory, because it's nothing that we can do. It's only through him and his Spirit.